Good evening, America. Welcome to Resurrecting Lives podcast on KLRNradio.net, where Doc Diego and I, Dave Matthews, will redeem our mission on assisting our battle-riddled Korea, Vietnam, and Gulf War veterans. Together, we'll be a decisive force on resurrecting lives from PTSD and traumatic brain injury, the signature wounds of modern-day warfare. And myself, a former VA TBI patient, and Doc Diego, a licensed clinical psychologist that specializes in PTSD. We will fuse an unprecedented chemistry. So whether you receive one of these wounds or even both from combat, in-theater accident, or MST, military sexual trauma, we will unearth the resources to get you, your family, or friends through our audience and our oath-taken, God-given talent. This is Sergeant Dave on tonight's Resurrecting Live show, COVID-19 Grief, the Extreme Stresses Response, and PTSD. We have not one, but two doctors that are unique in their own fields of studies. We have our co-host, Dr. Diego Hernandez, who is the clinical director of art research at the University of South Florida. And then we have Dr. Carlos Garcia, a licensed psychologist, Marine combat veteran, and first responder. Together, they work with a HUA, a nonprofit organization that supports our veterans with focus on preventing suicide. These doctors discuss the unique factors surrounding our veterans' mental health, the emerging therapies being used to help our veterans, in the V22 campaign, whose goal is to prevent one-day veteran suicide. I would like to start off the show with a factual statement that stress can have an acute effect on the human body. When the body is stressed, muscles tense up. Like Dr. Garcia, you can probably attest to this. It's like leaving for the first time when you left the wire in full battle rattle. Your whole body gets tense. Well, that muscle tension is almost a reflex reaction to stress, the body's way of guarding against injury and pain. You know, the fight or flight response, also called hyperarousal or the acute stress response. However, when muscles are taut and tense for long periods of time, this may trigger other reactions of the body and even promote stress-related disorders. Most popular ones are headache and migraines that are associated with chronic muscle tension, especially in the area of the shoulders, neck, and head. In addition to that, you can have musculoskeletal pain in the low back and upper extremities that have been linked to stress, especially job stress. Now, there's already millions of Americans with these stress responses. In the coming week, you can add another 20 million to the list with the new unemployment numbers. So if my daughter, who is out there listening, or any high school senior who hasn't chosen a major for college, a psychology major would be a shoo-in for job security. And that introduction brings you to my panel discussion on grief, the extreme stresses response, and PTSD. And they are going to break it down to the Barney style. Well, that's it for me. You experts take over, and all I do hear from me now is I'll just be asking pertinent questions. All right, Dr. Diego and Dr. Carlos, I want to thank you for being on the show. And I kind of just want to bring up a question to that we're all experiencing right now, a lot of us. PTSD, is that what most of us are experiencing right now during this COVID-19?
That question has come up quite a bit, and what we're experiencing right now is acute stress. So people may be feeling distress from it. If you've had diagnosis of post-traumatic stress or had other stressful events, that might be coming up and triggering your PTSD. But right now what we have is acute stress. And the technical definition of an acute stress response is the stress response from that event starts within 4 weeks of the event, and usually post-traumatic stress is something that develops sometime after the event, and it's basically your body's responding as if it's still in the event long after you're safe from that event.
Ah, I see. So how do you feel about that, Carlos?
Yeah, so Dr. Garcia here. I mean, I totally agree with Dr. Diego, and I think, we've been on a couple of interviews, and, we tend to think very alike. I agree with some of the things that he said, and I think more important to remember, or equally as important to remember, is that probably the response you're going to see more of here. Now, yes, if you had a prior diagnosis or a prior traumatic event, it's definitely going to increase those symptoms. I mean, that is for certain. But probably one of the, if we wanted to sort of give a diagnosis, that we're probably going to see more acutely, some sort of adjustment disorder, but more so than anything is an anxiety response to sort of a lot of the uncertainty and unknown that folks are dealing with now.
I see. Now, how about this? A lot of us veterans out in the audience, we have a certain tempo that civilians just don't have. And I ran across this a couple of times, personal experience of my own, is when I go to a restaurant, I had a girlfriend that always wanted to, she's a people gazer, and she always wanted to sit at the back of the restaurant. And I was like, that's my job. I have to sit in the back of the restaurant because I have to view everything. And so in case my hypervigilance, kicks in, and say somebody was going to come in and rob the restaurant or just shoot it up, I'm the one that's going to, save lives and save others around me, save my girlfriend, and charge that individual like I'm already thinking of the small table as my shield. So these are things that veterans go through, and I was wondering if, is that a sort of PTSD, doctors out there? Because a lot of us have that hypervigilance.
So the hypervigilance can be a number of things. Part of it is your training and maintaining a state of alert and situational readiness. And I think it's important for all of us to be aware of our environment. You think about it, so many people's faces are in their phones, and you see these YouTube videos of people walking in the sewer grates or walking in traffic and stuff like that. There's not a lot of situational awareness, and that's really important to maintain. But one of the symptoms of having post-traumatic stress is that increased hypervigilance, to where your body has already determined that there is some kind of danger or threat, and so that hypervigilance is a lot different than just vigilance. Vigilance will keep you alert, keep you aware of your situation and your environment. Hypervigilance is when your body has already determined that there's a threat and it's just looking for it, and then that during those times we're more prone to misinterpret things in the environment. That's also kind of how the brain is designed to work, because it starts to slow down some of the activity of other parts of our brain, so that way we can respond quickly as part of training, and sometimes it's just part of sort of being stuck in that hypervigilant state.
Gotcha on that one. Now, Dr. Garcia, what are other steps we can take to manage to improve the outcomes of this type of stress, this acute stress that we're all going through? So can you help us out with how we could manage it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the way I understand it, and this comes from a lot of the clinical work I do with my clients, is as human beings, we're very comfortable in a state of sort of certainty when we feel our environment has structure and we have control over it. That feels okay for us, right? And we can sort of talk about, from an evolutionary perspective, how we're sort of wired, to feel more comfort in a zone of safety. And what this crisis has done is really just sort of ripped that proverbial rug of safety out from underneath people's feet. And I truly believe that that's where the panic is coming from. We now feel like, okay, there are so many things that are out of my control, and it's creating a huge amount of tension because I don't know how to implement that structure again. And so I would say that the first and probably most important strategy is to implement some structure for yourself. And whether that's at home and developing, putting a plan together for you and your family, sort of incorporating a sleep structure, incorporating an exercise structure. I think those are all things that can be helpful. I think the second thing to think about is to find perspective, right? If we really think about it, how much of our environment and our lives do we have control over, or is that just, part of the illusion? So become comfortable with the things you can't control and just focus on the things you can control. Focus on the responses that you can potentially have to the things going on. Focus on maintaining a little bit of health for you and your family right now, and try to focus on, keeping a positive mindset as we're navigating the emotional distress that comes with all.
I see now. Yeah. So when our economy does recover, those with depression, how hard will it for them to engage in new goals and finding employment? I mean, it's going to be a tough time to find employment. How can we get these people up and ready for when this day does come, when the president does open up the economy little by little? How can we get these other veterans that have PTSD, TBI, that need jobs to get up and start moving to that direction? How can we help that? What's some ways we can assist with them on that?
Well, one of the advantages that veterans have in that situation is you know what it's like to hurry up and wait. You also know what it's like to train for a specific purpose. And along the lines of what Carlos is saying about gaining perspective, that in that process of gaining perspective, that's doing something in a situation where you're many options to influence the external situation, but you have some options to influence the internal. And so by keeping busy, exercise, keeping fit, working on those things that are actually going to promote your physical and mental well-being are going to help. But if you start working in some of those areas for the job that you're training for, just like you do in the service, that's going to put you in an advantage because you're going to be looking for opportunities. It's going to be a slow start. And when things start rolling out, it's like you're going to have to be flexible with these opportunities. Many people, the hope is that we could just return to the jobs that we had, but a lot of us are going to have to, be more creative and reinvent ourselves. And if we're preparing for that now, we're going to be more on the lookout and be vigilant for those opportunities. And we might be better able to more quickly respond when those opportunities appear, even if it's not the most ideal situation. But it comes down to needing to work. Work might be in one area, might be a stepping stone to something else, and kind of being prepared for that is one of the things we need to do as well.
Okay, Dr. Garcia, can you speak from your experience on that question that could help assist these veterans out there?
Yeah, I'd say, I know we're sort of talking about veterans here, but I think on a more global sort of scale, I know sometimes we're realizing that this is a crisis, but for me, I tend to sort of shift this mindset of how can we find the positive in all. And I really believe that oftentimes a way of coping with depression is to occupy and busy our lives, right? And let me go to work, let me have 1,000 activities going on so that I don't have to focus on that internal turmoil, okay? I think in the short term, that it's a coping strategy, right? It's definitely a defense mechanism that our brain is utilizing to get us through the day-to-day. But I think in the long term, it's not the most helpful thing. I think in the long term, reprocessing or processing those emotions and really attending to them is, what I help my clients do and how I help them get out of their depression. So all that being said, I think, we're really being given an opportunity here to take and evaluate our lives and what's been going on and things that we have been avoiding. And I would say, if that's one of the things in your life, if you have been avoiding some of the emotional distress, then what a good time to sort of sit down with that and say, okay, when this starts to get behind us, how am I going to get myself better? Right? Do I need to reach out to a counselor? Do I need to reach out to a therapist? Like, this whole thing is really making people realize how serious the issue in their lives, how much of a grip it had on them. Definitely, as Dr. Diego was saying, prepare. We have time. There's going to be a ton of opportunities that come about. Life isn't going to go back to normal the way it was before. So preparing is a great way to reduce that anxiety. and to also sit with, okay, what things, what sort of new things do I need to implement into my life so that when this is behind us, I feel like I have some momentum to hit the ground running.
So let me ask you about this. With COVID-19, the pandemic, there's a great deal of uncontrollability, unpredictability, and uncertainty. And all of our senses of structure has been totally disrupted. I mean, we don't know what will happen next, when or how. We cannot find answers. Our anxiety increases and become emotionally and psychologically compromised. So which balance do we take? Do we go with the more emotional side or the psychological side? Which one should we compromise or cater to?
Well, that's a good question. Part of it, we have to look at the purpose of emotion. Some of the emotions that Carlos is pointing out is maybe we've got some old stuff that we need to sort through, and the circumstances bringing us to a place where we could do that, either by talking to somebody, reading. And one of the great ways to do that too is to research about how other people have faced these challenges in the past. We look at it, it's like, we've gotten through two world wars. We've gotten through the 1918 pandemic, which happened between World War I and World War II. I mean, major events that influenced our society that we had to come back from and learn from. And hopefully we can learn from this experience too, because it's like it brought us to this the longest snow day ever, and it just brought society to a pause. So we actually have the luxury of time to do more than just entertain ourselves, but actually explore some of these areas. If we focus too much on the worry and fear and the uncertainty, I mean that's pretty apparent for all of us, that we don't really know when things are going to start up or how it's going to impact us down the road. That's just going to create this feedback loop that your body is designed to respond to a threat, and that kind of fear and worry actually just kind of spins and feeds on itself, and it actually starts to slow down other areas of your brain that you need for long-term planning. So taking the time to kind of work through those emotions and having some physical activity and be more open up front and talk about it, because we're all going through something similar, maybe not to the same degree, but there's enough common experience of what we're going through that it creates the opportunity for us to share a little more honestly about our feelings and our thoughts and how this is impacting us. To actually, but if we do it for the purpose of trying to learn and sort through it, so that way we can develop new strategies, take on new paths, because we move through life learning and experience the type of learning, and when we learn something, then we rely on that experience. This experience is going to be stories that we talk about for a long time, and it's really created this unique opportunity where we can dig deep and do some of this work, and we might need the help of professional self-help resources, and I've really looked to historical figures and other folks where you can access their stories, either in Netflix and books and online too. It's like how they've taken on challenges in the past, and how they've learned from it, and what it's done for them in their lives.
Well, that's a good segue to bring up, Dr. Yeagle. Out of your practices, what are the three popular ones that you would like to address at this time to the audience that you could assist them? And if they could get your phone number, go to your website, here's a good time for you to bring up. What is it? Is it meditation, or is it just having a therapy counseling session? So what would be the three things that you could suggest to the audience that you could assist them in right now, and give your phone number or website out at the same time, okay?
Yeah, sure. So, and I want to reiterate something you just said, Diego. That was a brilliant point. And that, again, this idea of perspective, right? Even though the mind's sort of natural inclination is to worry, which is adaptive, it's our way of sort of looking for solutions to future problems, we can shift. And if you reflect on your own life, individually, or you reflect just on, our human capacity to be resilient and to overcome problems, right? There are probably a lot of instances that you can look at in your own life of times where things were so challenging that at the time you didn't think you'd be able to overcome, but here you are, right? And this is just going to be another one of those instances, right? We're very, very resilient as human beings. So, great point. What I would say, a couple of really important things is there is such a huge benefit and value when we can just talk, right? If we can just reach out to somebody, and I'm not saying a therapist, but a friend, a family member, and just unload, just the process of venting. For my client, in their first session, I'm not worried about, the intervention or getting them anywhere. I'm just saying, here's an hour of space, because you've got a lot of stuff pent up that's on your mind, and just go ahead, right? Just that. There's so much value, and you can feel so much better just in doing that. I'd say the second thing is, we're talking about exercise, and if our body's in a healthy place, whether that's through nutrition or exercise, it's releasing certain hormones. All of these things can help our body to adapt to stress or to deal with stress on a much, much better scale. So look for those opportunities to improve your health in any way you can, whether it's yoga, meditation, staying away from foods that are really unhealthy for you. I would say the third thing is to have your support system, right? Not only because they can be there for you, but one of the things I know is that even when we have a tough time being there for ourselves, there's one thing that we are always really good at, and that's finding ways to support and give compassion to others. That compassion might be hard for a lot of people to give to themselves, but I think that people feel most inspired when they're able to be there for others. When they're sort of able to put, their own stuff aside for a little bit and, be there for somebody, whether that's through support, financially, emotionally, psychologically. Have a support system so that, you can feel inspired about paying it forward.
I had that experience today. It was a great opportunity for me to get out of the house, and I had my peer support, which is Team Red, White, and Blue, and one of the admins of Team Red, White, and Blue picked me up, and we went down to downtown Orlando, and we fed 222 vehicles that came through a drive-through setup at the Elks Lodge. This is the soldiersangels.org. What a group. We were able to feed 100-pound bags of food, multiple bags of food, a turkey and a ham to 222 vehicles that came through this setup drive-through. That we were there at 8:30 this morning, and we finished up at 1:30, and we had the support of not just other veterans but other civilians that were total patriots. We were a well-oiled machine. We had a food truck, an 18-wheeler come in. We had to unload it. We had to separate all the food. We had to cut out the bags, put everything together, line up tables all around, and it was just a great feeling to get out there with other people in the community. And I'm invigorated over it. I'm just going to last quite a few times. I can't wait for the next one. It's on third Friday of every month at downtown Orlando on Primrose Drive, not too far from the 408. So I want to get people out there. You can also just look up soldiersangel.org. But those type of events, you're not seeing them out there today. So I was really shocked that they had that event going on today. And of course, we did our best with the 6-foot rule. Everybody had gloves and a mask, and they had a mask and gloves for you if you didn't come with one. But a lot of us already brought our own. And it was orchestrated amazing that we were able to do it. And we made sure that every vehicle had their windows up. As much as they wanted to communicate with us, we really couldn't. It was mainly just beeping their horns and an occasional thank you. We had a sign as soon as they come in and said thank you for your service. But boy, you're talking about put a smile on someone's face as they come in, and you give them 100 pounds of food that's going to last them for at least a week. So that was my reason to get up this morning. That's going to push me even further. So we can find other events like that. I highly agree to get out of the house and try to, if you can, just donate or go to the food bank and volunteer. But yeah, I agree with that peer support. I definitely agree with that one there, Doctor. So if you know any other organizations that have peer support, here's a good time to mention them right now.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything else offhand, Dave, but what you gave is just a really good example of what Carlos is describing. We're social creatures by nature. We're wired for interaction. When you look at other mammals, like mammals on their own in captivity, they get really weird. It's because we need that input, we need that feedback. I mean, our bodies really physically respond to those interactions that we have with each other, and right now is the time to be connected. And one of the other things that you brought up was actually, we're purpose and meaning-seeking creatures. Having a purpose, having those meaningful connections and meaningful activities, or another way. You and I have talked about this before. The PFC. Having your personal mission, your family mission, and your community mission as part of military transition. And so you can. May not have as many opportunities in person to be part of these groups, but connecting with each other online, hearing each other out, listening to each other's stories. I mean, again, this time that we're going through now, I mean, a lot of veterans, especially with different conflicts, are talking about the long waiting periods, and just sharing those experiences and stories, and those things that we share them with the civilians that can help bridge the civilian-military gap. There's a lot to be gained from those stories, especially communicating them now. While we're kind of in this semi-lockdown.
The concern is with the economy relief measures that are coming out, which right now from the federal government. I just received my $1,200. It was a great feeling that my government is looking out for me, because I haven't worked since January 26th, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but the state of Florida's unemployment is just a mess. The office, so they sent the check to the wrong address, my old address, and I still don't have received any unemployment check. So I'm very fortunate that I'm receiving a disability check. But this money coming in, you think that money will ease the suffering of depression, doctors?
Well, it's going to help a little bit, but it's there's a lot of that uncertainty. We don't know how long this is going to go on, and so we're going to need to rely on each other more, and hopefully that the government will help provide some of those resources. But often it's going to fall to us to be creative and inventive. But it's a lot of that uncertainty right now, and the potential economic impact of it that's contributing to people's depression and anxiety.
Yeah, of the depression costs the U.S. economy $210 billion yearly. So, Carlos, what multi-response will be needed to keep the costs from doubling for depression right now? If you were going to help advise, you were on the task force for the government, how would you help them to keep depression's costs down so it won't double in the next 2 years with this COVID-19?
That's a great question. I would probably say that the thing that would be most helpful is prevention. Prevention of a lot of people sort of might see depression as just, that's only for folks that have a sort of a, biochemical issue. That's why they're depressed. That's why they're depressed. But a lot of people are sort of depressed because of life circumstances, or they've experienced, tough life circumstances in the past. But most people don't even recognize that they're depressed until it's too late, until they have to be hospitalized, until they need medication. And so if we can develop programs, if we can develop ways of utilizing different platforms to educate the public on what depression is, what it looks like, if we use platforms to destigmatize what it means to have depression, so that people don't feel that they have to hold it back, hold it in, and allow it to get to a point where it's destroying their life. Because for a lot of people, the depression, one of the data out there is that most people, from the time that they've experienced a mental health symptom until the time that they receive help, it's about 7 years. I don't know if you've heard that, Diego. Mm-hmm. But that's a long time. That's a long time for people to go suffering and trying to repress what's going on. So if we can help people sort of see, these are the different signs and symptoms of depression, I can look around in my life and say, maybe there's something going on here, and getting the help early. getting the help early. I think so. I think education is probably the way that I would look at it.
Yeah, I really agree with that because a couple of things. One is when you look at the current circumstances, people are facing a lot of loss, and some of that loss is the change of life and livelihood, loss of family members, friends. There's a lot of loss, and feeling sad about that is appropriate. It fits, but that's also going to trigger other things that are going on. And so being able to prepare for that in a way where we start having this conversation to kind of normalize what people are going through is really important. One of the I do some work also with first responders and give some talks about suicide, and that's one of the things that we see that tends to increase. Like, for example, the housing market went down. You know, in a huge number of those people were in some stage of foreclosure, but hadn't been foreclosed on yet. So one of the biggest influences, of that suicidal thinking and behavior was the prospect of losing everything. And so we're going to see some of that stuff going on. And as a public, we share our stories with people who've recovered. That's a great way to do it. I do some work in the UK, and usually in the spring and the fall. And every fall when I'm there, when it starts getting cold and dark, there's all these public service stories and programs that come out, and people start talking about their struggle with depression, anxiety, and how they were able to get through it. I mean, it's really called for a TED Talk. And you Google TED Talk, Colonel Scott Mann, Generosity of Scars. Colonel Mann is pretty honest and brutal about his struggle with his condition. And one of the things that I like to talk about when we have these dark moments is that dark moment may be you're realizing that something needs to change in your life, maybe a relationship or a job or how you're approaching things or even just the life that you expect to have, that something needs to change, maybe symbolically something needs to die, but you don't. It can be a really transforming event, by letting go of things that no longer serve us. And sometimes, people really do need help through those times, but it can be a transformation. So again, it's looking for Google the TED Talk, Generosity of Scars. I mean, it's really a great, honest, upfront talk about Scott's experience. And so if we can respond as a public by, making these stories a little more common, making it part of common discussion instead of looking down on folks as if there's something wrong with them, by responding to a difficult circumstance, with these strong emotions or, what we typically consider negative points, we could really make a huge difference in that as a public could help people through it, because, many of us are being impacted by it. So it's not just, you and the rest of the world is just fine.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on that point. Yes, I do. And here's our opportunity to bring up Hua. Hua just has just a great theme that I'm helping with another organization, so helping out our American heroes. And Carlos, could you talk a little bit about your organization that you and Doc Diego help out with? Could you bring that up and promote that at this time?
By a retired Army Ranger, and initially what we were doing was actually to meet some of the needs of other Rangers, and then it turned into more of sending care packages to troops when they're deployed. And from there, we actually got involved with accelerated resolution programs like the ones that the Veterans Alternative in Holiday, Florida, who, by the way, if you need to do some telehealth and some other resources for veterans with anxiety, depression, or post-traumatic stress, the Veterans Alternative would be one to look into. They're offering some telehealth services and some other workshops and so forth online. And so it would help us bring folks, veterans of any branch of service, to Florida, to the Veterans Alternative. And we just started training the folks in Green Bay, Wisconsin, for the first HUA wellness program. We use some of meditation, other things to help recondition the nervous system, along with these more advanced memory techniques to actually bring these difficult memories through to a resolution. So that creates a decrease in hypervigilance and nightmares, and a lot of our research shows that lower someone's symptoms enough to actually help resolve post-traumatic stress. So who is one of those organizations that is really helpful in that regard? In the Orlando area, we have the Camaraderie Foundation. They help to provide scholarships for folks to receive therapy and who are post 9/11 veterans. And they also use some of the latest memory techniques with the accelerated resolution, as well as the RTM, the reconsolidation of traumatic memory. And so those are a couple of local Florida organizations, but just doing a general search. I mean, there's a number of folks that are out there. 220. There are actually another organization in your community that not only works on veterans but also first responders.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love these local Florida organizations. Yeah, I'm familiar with Camaraderie Foundation, Mike Waltrip. Yeah. So I really want to thank you for your time and your busy schedule, guys. So is there anything else you would like to mention to our listeners as we get close to tapping out on the show? I want each of you to have a chance to just give your last input, bring up your website, promote yourself at the same time before we tap out of the show. Go ahead, Carlos, you first.
Yeah, I just want to say, we gave a lot of good strategies and things that people could be doing right now to deal with what's going on. But I think above all else, to understand that we all have our own thing going on, our own responses to it. And I never want to leave folks with the message of, like, if you're not exercising or eating right, or if you're not doing yoga, that there's something wrong. Don't judge sort of your experience and how you're going through this. We're all going through a tough time. And if the best that you can do right now is wake up in the morning and, get through another day, then that's all you need to do. Right, so don't judge your process. Don't judge your response. Sit with it. We're going through a hard time, and be okay with that. If anyone wants to reach out to me, they can reach at my website www.tampacw, B as in Charlie, B as in whiskey.com. You can reach out to me through there. I'd be happy to jump on a phone call or communicate with you and sort of help you, if you just need someone to talk to or, you wanted some support in any way, I'd be happy to provide that.
Well, thank you for that. And yourself, Dr. Diego?
Yeah, I would like to echo the same thing that Carlos says. It's like we need to work at where we're at, and if taking a break is where you're at, that's what we need to do. Gearing up towards some of this stuff. It's like we've got some time. And even if things open up in the next month or so too, and it's just taking those steps wherever you're at, starting wherever you're at, even if it's just movement, and it's creating kind of a regimen and ritual. There's a great talk by Admiral Craven where he says, if you want to accomplish anything, just wake up and make your bed. There's simple things that we can do to just kind of start to reorganize our life. Maybe get rid of some things that we don't need. It's like, you don't have to take on a CrossFit challenge, but that might be the thing that you need to do to get you through this time. What matters is that we get through this time and that we do it in a way that's more meaningful, where we connect with each other. That way that the effects aren't lingering as much. Because if we just kind of wait it out with fear and anxiety, what happens is when we sort of get the all clear, then that worry is going to come back that it's like, oh my God, it could happen again. What happens is when you've taken these positive steps and you've gotten through and that you know that what you've done has made a difference, that'll be what you rely on going forward, knowing that it's like, well, if something happens again, I'll just go back to these airline things that I did get through it the first time. And that's a lot more of a positive outlook. My website is Balanced Living Psychology. And I'd be happy to talk with you. My email is docdiego, that's Diego@earthlink.net. And Dave, thank you very much for having us on here. I really hope that, Carlos and I both really just, want to share this information with folks to, help them sort of contextualize their experience and see that a lot of this stuff is normal, even the stuff that might be coming up, and that there's things that we can do on our own and also with each other to actually get through the situation together.
Well, both you guys are both a force multiplier in our community, and I want to thank you for all you do, not just for our veterans, for our community citizens as well. Keep on doing the great work, guys, and looking to hear you guys here on the next show soon. Who knows, right? And wish you all well. I know you're going to be overwhelmed here in the next few months, so I wish you well in all what you guys are doing for our community, and we thank you for your time on this busy time in your life. So we're signing off right now. Take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Yeah, thank you.
All right, it's getting 0 dark 30 for the show, and before I relax, never, and go into rack ops mode, go to sergeantdavematthews@gmail.com. That's SGTMATTHEWS@gmail.com. If you have any ideas or resources for our veterans and community. And you can always comment me on my Twitter handle, Sergeant Dave, SGT Dave at Heroic Memorials, and you can like my Facebook page, Resurrecting Lives on KLRNradio.net. Well, until all our troops come home from Afghanistan, share this podcast to all of your patriotic friends, Thursday and Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, Pop Smoke out, from me anyway. Keep on listening.